Sometimes you sit down, you wonder why some people don't want you to talk about racism, some people don't want you to talk about slavery and its effects. And when you sit down and try to reminisce things that happened in the past to the people who look like you and I, to people who I could call my ancestors, it's really sad. What am I talking about? There was so much dehumanization that happened during slavery, and I think it's important that we try to recall these scenarios. In as much as people might say that that's something that happened in the past, the pain that people still walk with, because people can remember everything how it happened through stories that our great grandparents gave us. I'm talking about Black Americans who have shared or had these stories from their ancestors, from their great grandfathers, from their grandfathers, right? And it pains me to feel like a human being was reduced to a commodity, to the essence that people are just being sold like commodities. And I'm not saying that it is only white people who did this. I understand even Africans themselves done this to fellow Africans, and it's okay because we were brainwashed, and we as people, and I'm not taking this as an excuse because it is dehumanizing, it is not right, this is something that should be called out. But white people did it massively. White enslavers did it massively. Because after even taking Africans outside the United States and some of the indigenous Americans who were the owners of the land of the United States, they started enslaving these people, right? They disrupted all these activities, the trade that Black people had in the United States even before the Columbus came, right? And they changed everything. And now they started making Black women give birth to their kids, and they will sell these kids at a price like $10,000, like $12,000. Like, they reduced human beings to a commodity. The value of human being was reduced to a commodity. I want us to watch this video. This grandmother shares a great insight of what she saw during her times. I wish you understand her story, and some of you have heard stories like this. You can tell that it is true. She's saying the truth. I want us to watch this video. I'll be back. We'll have a discussion. And if you're watching this video for the first time, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, join our membership, and really get what we can offer you. But until then, let's get into it.
How bad was slavery, Daisy? How bad?
It couldn't be any worse there. I just keep trying to tell you. Can anything be any worse when a white man was having children by the Negro slave women and then putting them up for sale on the block? Putting my father, they wanted to sell my father for a breeder for $12,000 when he was 12 years old. And old Golden, John Golden, was the rich planter. He wouldn't sell him for that. This lady that was in this room this morning is from New Orleans, one of the women. Just this past 2 weeks, she found this picture of my father down in New Orleans, and she's bringing it to me now. I'm going to have a copy of my father.
Great. What regiment did he fight in, Daisy?
1st New Jersey Cavalry. When he ran away, my father was on the plantation working for his master, and he with 27 other boys ran away, swam across the Rappahannock River, and joined the 1st New Jersey Cavalry in 6th from the war.
Was he a good fighter, your father? Did he fight hard for the Union?
Oh, yes, dear, he was a brave boy. Naturally, he had nothing else to do. He was a brave boy. He had to be brave to come up here in this country and make a living and get ahead and get on his feet and raise us family.
Colored people versus mixed people versus mulattoes versus brown skins versus dark skins versus light skins versus African Americans versus Caribbean. It's hard to have these conversations, at least in the way that we often do, if you understand that blackness is not a real thing. Black people are real, black culture is real, but blackness as a concept was created out of a function of separation, not distinction. What is real, and what we are often talking about, is the effects of the brutality and the ruthlessness of white folks and anybody else who has conspired with white folks under the idea that any human being can be better than another. Tell me why blackness is based off of your phenotype, because you understand yourself through how white people see you. White people have identified and labeled you. Why I don't like giving too much energy to whatever side in the African diaspora that we create. Because these conversations are often fueled by the imagination of white men. These conversations are often fueled by guessing what white people see in us before we've even decided that ourselves. And if you've been on my page, you understand why I advocate so much for people not to erase the Black identity, but to get deeper, to dig deeper inside of their Black identity. To understand that being Black does not mean that you are not white. And you think I'm playing, but you'd be surprised at how much of us subconsciously believe that that is our identity. Being Black, even from its origin, means that you are of the African diaspora. You are of African people of African descent. The issue I have with Blackness is that it lives eternally in comparison. Being more attached to your African ancestry, you do not allow yourself to be understood comparatively. What is the opposite of a Bengali person? What is the opposite of a Singaporean person? What is the opposite of an Argentinian person? What is the opposite of a Zimbabwean person, of a Kenyan person? There is none. But you know what the opposite of a Black person is? You know what the opposite of a white person is? I want all of us to remember that your story has been written long before white people, European people, ever stepped foot on your continent. Jesus existed around 2,025 years ago. Around 2,000 years before that, the pyramids finished being built. Egyptian civilization existed and was thriving long before then. On top of that, there were other empires that existed at the same time. The Ethiopian Empire, the Kush Empire, the Nubian Empire. Yes, Blackness is a very big part of our story, but do not let these white people convince you into believing that that is where your story began. Because if that was the truth, they wouldn't need to enslave you to build all of their empires, would they? If that was the case, they wouldn't be in Africa right now trying to extract Africa of all of the riches that it naturally has. The last point I want to make is Blackness is exclusionary language. Why is that? Because it began to exclude you from whiteness. It's not the only way we understand Blackness, but so much of how we understand Blackness comes from how we have been excluded from whiteness. We're excluded from safety, how we're excluded from institutions, how we're excluded from access, how we're excluded from resources. What I love about claiming our Africanness and our African descent is that it is inclusionary language. It invites you to understand yourself in a certain way. It invites you to learn your story. It invites you to adopt a certain understanding of where you come from. Understanding that has nothing to do with white people. Because being honest, as much terror as these people have caused, they do not deserve enough power to change not only how you see your other people, more importantly, yourself. Video right there. Peace out. I'm sorry to break it to you, but a conservative is not a real thing. The right, someone who's leaning right, the far right is not a real thing. What you are seeing in front of you is a white supremacist. Remember the KKK? People in the white hoods? You know that we got people living, breathing today that can tell the story of the tyranny of the KKK? Remember Jim Crow laws? Remember how they used to depict us on the news? Remember the firefighters that used to let us burn alive in buildings? If we have people, our people, still alive to tell that story, where do you think the perpetrators from these stories went? Conservative. What exactly are these people conserving? This is American history. Go back to the Civil War. Who fought in the Civil War? The Union and the Confederacy. Please tell me what the Union believed in, and please tell me what the Confederacy believed in, and please tell me if left and right are good ways to describe those ideologies. Please tell me if a Nazi walked in your country and told you the things that white people say they want to do to us. Please tell me if you would describe that Nazi as right-leaning. Right-leaning. One of the best rebrands in U.S. history is white supremacists, imperialists, colonialists, rebranding as this right oppositional political ideology. Because in reality, politics discusses things like development, GDP, economy, families, structure. This country has convinced you that their hatred for your existence is a political ideology. And you believe them. And you act like there's anything political, anything intellectual, anything logistic about their arguments and their worldview. I'll simplify for everybody. There is no political debate for somebody who doesn't believe that you don't have the right to exist. On top of that, you think the left wants anything better for you either? This is the same left that won't even look you in your eyes and address to you what this country has done to you. Because when you're in the room, you're just American and everyone's colorblind. But as soon as you leave the room, you're a dirty black immigrant, whether you black American or not. And again, a country that has ever even needed to create a distinction between an American and a black American is telling you exactly how they feel about you. There is no left-right split in this country. It is white supremacy, colonialism, imperialism. Class. And on top of that, you don't need to be white to be a white supremacist. Some of y'all are as dark as me and share these same sentiments. You got to think big, because before we are fighting groups and people, we are fighting systems and power dynamics. And until you understand that, you will never understand what is going on in American politics. Peace out.
No, that's not what's happening. There isn't some dramatic increase in hatred between black people and white people. That's not what's happening at all. All of that shit is just the same. Okay. The way European Americans respond to black people, the same. The way non-black POCs respond to black people, the same. The way these leftists and these progressives respond to black people, the same. You know what's different? The way black people are now responding to the harm, the erasure, the alienation that all of these other groups do to us. This election, okay, and black people tried to warn y'all, this election sent a fucking loud and clear message to black people. Because when this entire country looking at black people, no matter what your stance on Palestine was, looking at black people and expecting all of us as a collective to jump on board with you, because all of you know how shitty you treat us. All of you. And you all have your own different ideologies about why you treat us the way that you treat us, but none of you want to listen to us. So you all had the fucking audacity to try to pit black American struggle against the Palestinian struggle and expect black Americans to choose Palestinians. You all did that. We didn't. But what you showed us when you tried to pit our struggle against the Palestinian struggle, and keep in mind I'm saying you as in you all, not you the person. When you all tried to pit our struggle against the Palestinian struggle, you know what that said to us? You don't care about either of us. You don't care about Palestinians. You don't care about black Americans. You just want to win. And you feel about Palestinians just like you feel about black Americans. We're all disposable to you. And black America, we see that shit. All of these people out here that say they feel Palestine. No, you fucking don't. You can't feel Palestine while you are treating black Americans the exact same way. It's not real. And America is treating Palestine. You just don't want to see us. But we value ourselves. And you're not going to kick the shit out of black people in America. Not anymore. So that's the difference. Y'all are the same. Y'all the ones that ripped us out the motherfucking plastic though. Okay? We're the ones acting brand new. You ain't gonna walk all over black lives anymore. We will fight back. No, that's not what. You're absolutely right. Reciprocity. That's what they're afraid of. Because they all know they got it fucking coming. And we should all know that we are worthy of and due respect. And I'm going to tell you, my people, this ain't got shit to do with social media. You're hearing me on this app, but please take this into real life. You deserve reciprocity because you're worthy of it. You are worthy of it. And you don't need a bunch of fancy words to demand it. You don't have to change, my people, not at all, to be worthy of reciprocity. You can be the same fucking bus driver you always been. Same cashier, same stay-at-home mom, same young and questioning black mind. You can be the same doctor, the same teacher, the same nurse, lawyer. You can be the same brother looking for a job because you got felony convictions in a country where the fucking president has 34. And you deserve reciprocity. Don't let anyone try to talk you out of it. Not even these black faces with white voices coming out their fucking head. You don't let nobody talk you out of your own worth, the worth of your people, us as individuals, and we, the collective. Don't let nobody talk you out of it. They tried to do it over this last fucking election, and we wouldn't go for it. And now they want to blame us for their piss poor choices. Reject that shit. Any table that you sit at, You ask them point blank, what's in it for me? If you don't like they fucking answer, get up from that table. I would prefer you come and sit with us. You have a right to your own self-determination. Black person, take control of that right. Yeah, shit's gonna be different in this country because we say so. They ain't gonna be counting our motherfucking votes before we cast them. They're not gonna be talking all over us. They are not going to depend on our work ethic because we working for us. Yes, reciprocity. They have it coming, and we deserve to be respected. Let's go get us some.
Hey, what's up, folks? I hope you're fine. Now, there are a couple of questions that we could ask ourselves. If people are talking about civilization, who are the most uncivilized people? Because you can't tell me your civilization teaches you that you can just sell a human being like a product. You can reduce the value of a human being to a property, right? And you can understand the family separation that black families had. And to some extent, some studies are showing that those are one of the reasons as to why the black families have never been compact, because its foundation was based on separation. And black people were being alienated their family. As a black man, you had to work without seeing your family because you're being kept away from your family. You had to work most of the time to provide for them. This means that you are being alienated because as much of the time, these white folks wanted you to work in their farms. As women also worked on the other side. You realize that when you guys are meeting later, you got nothing to say because most of you are tired. You want to rest because tomorrow again, you'll be wanted to go and work in the same places that these people took you. So it is so saddening. It is so hurting. The rate of dehumanization that happened, right? Taking a human being, selling them as a commodity, reducing humans' value. God himself put life into a human being. You can't just sell a human being, right? This shows how these people took as black people. And it is time for us to always sit down and try to recall this history, because it's important for us to look at history. It's important to us to look where we came from. These will act as a map to help us predict where we are going. And I'm not even talking about the modern slavery that is still happening both in the United States and outside the United States and outside the world. What Arabs are doing to Africans. Most of Africans are going to these places working for poor wages. A lot of dehumanization which are still happening, right? So, racism and white supremacy. The system of slavery was underpinned by the belief in white supremacy, which justifies the dehumanization of black people. The system justified the dehumanization of black people. These ideologies convinced white enslavers that black lives existed for their benefit and profit, not for independent existence. Those people saw you as a commodity. Your life was important to them, not because you're a human being, not because you are a person who has two legs like them or two hands like them, but you are a person who will produce something to them. You are a commodity to them. Your value as a human being was reduced to a commodity. And that's what you should see. How, if we talk about civilization, how uncivilized these people are. Just look at how uncivilized these people are. And then yet we can't even sit down and talk about civilization with you guys, because you guys don't know what is called civilization. If you want to know what civilization, go to Africa and ask Africans. They tell you what civilization. It was so disheartening what these people did, and the system perpetuated this. The system made it possible for these people to think that it is okay to separate black families, that it is okay to put a black man and a black woman separated. Some articles explain as to why we are seeing most of black families, why most of black families are not compact. It is because of the separation. It is because of the alienation that it was there already. This is what these people did. And they did this successfully because they maneuvered to do this, because the system protected them to do this. Now, I'm going to be talking about some things. I'll be talking about legal structures. Patus sequitur ventrem. Laws such as this in the colonial America dictated that the child's status as free or enslaved was determined by the status of the mother. This insensitized the forced pregnancy of enslaved women. No rights for the enslaved. Black women had no legal rights to protect themselves or their children. Enslavers could force pregnancy and sell offspring with no consequences. And sell offspring with no consequences. You get to understand how uncivilized, how uncouth, how barbaric these people are. Right? Now, psychological and social control. Forcing black women to give birth and selling their children also served as a method of psychological terror. It instilled fear, broke family ties, broke familial bond, and perpetuated systems of dependency and control. Just what I've talked about, because this is what they wanted. They wanted the division between the black families, and this is how they achieved it. Separating a black man from a black woman, keeping them always working. When they meet, they're tired, they can't even talk about anything, right? And so the bond between these two people was cut because of the laws that these people put. That was so much dehumanizing. And this has a big part in the black community, right? You are just seen as a commodity. You are a profit generation commodity. You are nothing important to them. Right. Enslaved people were considered property, and children born to enslaved women automatically became the property of the enslaver. Right. This increased the enslaver's assets without additional purchase cost, selling children as a way to maximize profit. That was so wrong. That was so uncouth. Right. Now, self-sustaining slavery. After the transatlantic slave trade was banned, that is in the 1880s, the U.S. law ending the importation of slaves, the system shifted towards breeding enslaved people to maintain and grow the labor force domestically. You give birth, they take your kid, the kid will work for them. That's still their commodity. That's how they worked, and that's how they ensured that they worked with black people. That was so dehumanizing, and it is so good seeing our great grandmothers coming to tell us all these stories, because it's important. And it's important for us to have these difficult talks, because I understand some of our ancestors, like Africans, played part in doing this. I recognize that, right? And it is because they were whitewashed, right? They were lured with all these things, and they didn't reason that later on this will bring a great consequence, even in the lives of fellow Africans who are remaining because of the separation. Some of our ancestors are in the United States, maybe, I don't know, right? I don't know if my great-great-great-grandfather was sold. I don't know, right? So as a person, as an African, who still understands the dynamics that played during transatlantic slave trade or slavery in Africa itself, I understand that there are long-term consequences. Like, what if my great-grandfather was in the United States? I don't know, right? So tell me what you think about this topic. I would like to know your opinion in regards to this. Until then, I'm going to be seeing you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.